Hi everybody, it's Dawn and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, we have some people on the Norwegian Escape getting back from their cruise a lot later than they planned. Also, guess what? The disembarkation is going to be late as well. And how is this going to affect the next cruise? We'll talk about that. We have a very disturbing story of a man who was getting off the cruise ship, was chosen for secondary inspection, and what they found on his phone was just simply disturbing, especially because of who he was traveling with. We also have the name and where she's sailing from the next biggest Margaritaville at Sea cruise ship. It's going to be the largest one in their fleet, so where are they going to sail from? Well, probably one of the largest cruise ports in the world. And then we have a Carnival guest who, I don't believe they were asking for this or trying to explain this. And even John Hill said, you know, this should go without saying, but apparently it has to. They actually want to, okay, wow, you won't believe it. So our first story is the NCL Escape is returning back to New York City from her cruise, and she is experiencing, you guessed it, propulsion issues that is reducing her speed. Well, so much so that she's normally arriving between 7 and 7:30 in the morning for disembarkation. She will not arrive back in New York City until 2 p.m. That's right, 2 o'clock. That's a long distance from your time. So even if you chose a flight in the afternoon, chances are you're going to be late and miss that flight. So, you know, Norwegian Cruise Line is offering, you know, to help people if you book through the cruise line, those will automatically be rebooked. However, if you're having to contact the airlines yourself and move your own flights, they will reimburse you up to $300 for non-refundable airfare. But they're warning people, if you're rebooking your fares, that, you know, book it at least after 7:30 p.m. or the next morning. So yikes. They also opened up the internet and the phone lines for passengers to be able to contact the airlines and make further arrangements, or even people who were picking them up at the airport. And of course, that means embarkation is going to be later, and that won't start until 4 p.m. at the earliest, and their set sail time is around 8 p.m. at night, meaning that cruise is starting off at a much later space as well. And hopefully they got that engine or fixed for their next cruise. Otherwise, it's going to be missing cruise ports as well. We'll have to keep an eye on the NCL Escape. Next, we have a really disturbing story of a 48-year-old man who was getting off a cruise ship, and the county police officers had chosen him for a secondary inspection. And when they inspected his phone, they requested his phone. And by law, when, you know, border security requests your phone, you have to give it to them, or that's an actual arresting a federal offense. So you give it to them, you have to give them your code. And they found explicit material, shall we say, of a young age on there. Not just photos, explicit material on there. And he did say that, yes, I do have this on my phone. He admitted to it. He said, but nobody has access to that. Nobody at all except me, was kind of his defense. What's really disturbing on that is he was on vacation with his pregnant wife and 8 children. He's also fostered 20 children, and 7 of those children were on the cruise with them. And the material that he had was of that. So that is a very disturbing story. He has been charged federally now, and he is actually working out a plea bargain deal. But yeah, a little bit of a yikes story there. Definitely a yikes story when you find out foster parent has that kind of material in their phone. Not great. Next, let's talk about something a little better. Margaritaville at Sea, the little cruise line that could, has now said that they know where they're going to be putting their next ship, which is their largest ship. That's the Beachcomber. It is supposed to have much larger entertainment on board, actual kind of Broadway show productions there, a lot more choices and venues for food, etc., cabin types. And they were going to be sailing, since it's their largest ship, they're going to go to the largest cruise port, and that's the cruise port of Miami. She'll be sailing out of Miami starting in January of 2027. And if you check those fares out, they're usually much lower than the other cruise lines right now, but they don't offer as much. It's more of a budget cruise, but this ship may change all that. And so we'll have to see when she launches. A lot of people are a little bit excited about it when it comes up. Next, let's talk about this story with a Carnival cruise guest. But before I get there, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. You want to keep up to date with everything going on in cruising, from the new ships coming online to ships that are delayed, and maybe your embarkation is delayed and maybe your future cruise is going to be impacted because of engine troubles, to ridiculous things that some cruise passengers do or want from the cruise lines, like my next story. We try and keep it as lighthearted as possible, even for the serious topics, but I try my best to keep you as best informed on the cruise industry as I can, to make your cruise just a little easier and maybe a little safer, and maybe even save you some money in the meantime. I really do hope you'll join us. It doesn't cost anything, but it really does help the channel out. Okay, let's talk about the Carnival cruise guests. Now, they apparently were arriving in Belize. And in Belize, sometimes you need to use a tender. Now, if you've gone to Carnival, often you have to go down these little ramp stairs onto the tender boat. You know, the boat's rocking back and forth sometimes like this. Even on really calm waters, it can still rock back and forth. You have a little ramp to get on the tender, and you're into the tender. Well, they had a mobility issue. They were in a scooter. What the guests wanted them to do is not just bring the scooter onto the tender and assist them to get on the cruise, you know, down the stairs and onto the tender boat. They wanted them to pick them up on the scooter. So carry the scooter and them down the stairs and the ramp onto the tender, and vice versa when they came back. Carry them up the stairs, still sitting on the scooter. Even John Hill said, "I can't believe we have to say this, but we're not going to get 9 crew members to carry passengers up and down stairs sitting on a scooter. They will assist you. They will even try and carry the scooter on for you and off for you when you get to your destination sometimes, but they're not about to try and carry a 100 to 200 pound scooter along with another 150 to 200 to 400 pound person downstairs, narrow stairs, onto a tender." Yeah, I agree. And in fact, they will not carry any cruise passenger. Whether they will not help carry them, they will assist them downstairs, but they will never pick them up and carry them downstairs. The only time that will ever happen is if they're injured and on a stretcher and it's a medical emergency. That's the only time that would ever happen. But their liability for something happening if they trip and fall while carrying a passenger is through the roof. And even tripling that if they're carrying them while they're on a scooter. I can't believe somebody asked this and thought that they deserved that should be part of the service. I don't think that's a thing. I really don't think that's a thing. Wow. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Do you think that's a little ridiculous? Or do you think, hey, there should be some kind of accommodation there? Yeah. I don't know what you could do with a small ramp on the side of a ship like that. There's not a whole lot of options. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.